I used to believe invisibility was a superpower. For 10 years, I perfected it. Head down, voice small, movements calculated to take up the least possible space. Brooklyn was good for disappearing. Millions of people. Everyone too busy to notice one more tired girl buying discounted produce at Whole Foods on a Tuesday afternoon. I was reaching for organic tomatoes when the air changed. You know that feeling when you're being watched? When your skin prickles and your throat tightens and some ancient part of your brain screams danger? That's what hit me first. Not the man himself, the awareness of him. I looked up. He stood near the dairy section. Dark suit among the yoga pants and hoodies, completely out of place and absolutely aware of it. Our eyes met for half a second. His were gray, not soft gray, but the color of smoke before fire. The kind of gray that's seen things and remembered them. I dropped my gaze fast. Too fast. That's when I knew I'd already made a mistake. The exits disappeared. Not literally, but 3 men in black materialized like shadows gaining form, flanking the doors, the checkout lanes, the emergency exit near the bread. Professional, precise, terrifying in their coordination. My heart kicked against my ribs. The tomato in my hand felt suddenly heavy, absurd, like I'd brought a still life painting to a crime scene. You will feel so many emotions in this mysterious love story I'm about to tell. Please support us by clicking subscribe to the channel. The nearest man smiled at me. It didn't reach his eyes. "Miss Chen," he said, knowing my name though I'd never seen his face before in my life. Mr. Donovan would like a word. I should have run. Should have screamed. Should have done literally anything except what I did next, which was nod. But something about the way the man in the suit, Donovan, stood there, watching me from across the produce section with those unreadable eyes, made my feet move forward instead of away. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was the exhausted recognition that invisibility only works until it doesn't. Maybe it was the way he looked at me, not through me, at me, like I was solid, real, worth seeing. They didn't drag me to a back room or a car. They escorted me to the wine section. I almost laughed. It was so absurd. Marcus Donovan stood examining a bottle of Bordeaux like he owned the entire store. Maybe he did. Men like him seemed to own everything without needing to announce it. He was older than I'd thought from a distance. Late 30s, maybe 40. Silver threaded through his dark hair at the temples. A scar cut through his left eyebrow, white against tan skin, the kind of mark that comes from violence survived, not inflicted. He wore his expensive suit-like armor, but his hands were scarred across the knuckles. Old wounds, stories written in skin. "You dropped this," he said, holding out my sketchbook. My stomach dropped. It must have fallen from my bag during the encounter. I reached for it, but he didn't hand it over immediately. His thumb rested on the cover, and I knew with sick certainty, that he'd looked inside, that he'd seen the drawings, the doors, the shadows, the hands reaching, all the things I'd never told anyone, laid out in charcoal and graphite. "You're an artist," he observed, not a question. "The coffee shop on Bedford. You draw there every morning at 6. The surveillance hit me like cold water. He'd been watching me, knew my routine. The coffee shop was my sanctuary, the one place I felt safe enough to create. And he'd turned it into evidence of how exposed I really was. I reached for the sketchbook again. This time he pulled it back slightly, just an inch, establishing a boundary I couldn't cross without permission. "I need someone who sees things others miss," he said, voice low and careful, like he was negotiating a hostage situation. "Someone who understands shadows. I'm prepared to pay you $50,000 for 2 weeks of your time." $50,000. The number hung in the air between us. Obscene and impossible. My rent was 3 months overdue. David's medical bills from his hospitalization last year were drowning me in debt I'd never surface from. I worked 3 freelance illustration gigs and still couldn't afford groceries that weren't discounted. And this stranger, this dangerous, beautiful stranger, was offering me salvation wrapped in surveillance. "What do you want me to draw?" My voice came out smaller than I intended. Weaker. I hated it. He finally handed me the sketchbook. His fingers brushed mine. The touch was electric, unexpected, and I pulled back like I'd been burned. If he noticed, he didn't show it. "The truth," he said. "But first, you need to understand what you're looking at." I should have refused, should have walked away, should have reported him to someone, anyone, though I had no idea what I'd even say. But I thought about David, about his student loans and his dreams of becoming a social worker, about how I'd promised our mother before she died that I'd keep him safe. I thought about the eviction notice taped to my door. I thought about 10 years of being invisible and how exhausting it was to never be seen. "I'll think about it," I managed. Marcus Donovan smiled. It was small, almost sad, like he knew I'd already decided and was just letting me pretend I had a choice. "Take your time," he said. "You have until tonight to decide." I turned to leave, my legs shaky, my mind racing. I made it 3 steps before his voice stopped me cold. "Miss Chen." I looked back. "The man who's been following you for 3 weeks. The one in the gray Honda, he doesn't work for me." My blood turned to ice. I'd noticed the car. Of course I'd noticed. But I'd convinced myself I was paranoid. That 10 years of looking over my shoulder had finally broken something in my perception of reality. Now this stranger was confirming my worst fear. I wasn't paranoid. I was prey. Marcus Donovan's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes did. Something that looked almost like anger on someone else's behalf. "From now on," he said, voice quiet and absolutely certain, "no one touches you." I didn't sleep. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the gray Honda, imagined faceless men watching my windows, counting my breaths. At 3 a.m., I gave up and made coffee, hands shaking so badly I spilled grounds across the counter. The $50,000 had appeared in my account at midnight. I'd checked my phone obsessively, and there it was. A deposit from DM Enterprises, like I'd already agreed, like my silence was consent. He hadn't even asked for my account information. Dawn broke gray and cold over Brooklyn. I dressed for my usual routine because I didn't know what else to do. The coffee shop, my corner table, my sketchbook. If I deviated now, what did that mean? That he'd already won, that I was already his. I made it to the front door of my building before I saw the SUV, black, pristine. A man stood beside it in a dark suit, hands folded in front of him like a Secret Service agent. He was older than the men from yesterday, maybe 50, with silver hair and a face that had seen everything twice. When I stepped onto the sidewalk, he straightened. "Miss Chen, I'm Vincent. Mr. Donovan asked me to provide transportation. I didn't ask for a driver." "No, ma'am, but you have one." His tone was polite but immovable, like a wall dressed in courtesy. I wanted to argue, to assert some pathetic scrap of autonomy. But then Vincent pulled out his phone and turned it toward me without a word. Photos. Dozens of them. Me walking home from the bodega. Me at the laundromat. Me leaving David's apartment in Queens. All taken over the past 3 weeks. All time-stamped. All showing the same gray Honda in the background, just far enough away to seem coincidental. In one photo, I could see the driver, a middle-aged white man with a baseball cap, face turned just enough that I couldn't make out his features. But in another shot, zoomed in, enhanced, his face was clear, and I recognized him. Not personally, but the type. The same dead eyes, the same casual cruelty in the set of his mouth. He looked like Thomas, like every man who'd ever made me feel small and watched and hunted. I got in the SUV. Vincent drove in silence while I stared at my hands and tried not to vomit. The coffee shop appeared in the window, my sanctuary, and suddenly I couldn't bear to go inside. What if the man in the Honda was there? What if he'd sat at the table next to mine every morning, listening to me breathe, watching me create? "Can we just drive?" I asked. "Anywhere." Vincent nodded once and kept going. We drove for an hour through Brooklyn, then Manhattan, and I watched the city wake up through tinted windows that made everything look like a film noir. Vincent's phone buzzed occasionally, but he never answered. Protection, I realized. This was what protection looked like. Silence and distance and the removal of choices I didn't know I was making. At the coffee shop, I later learned, a woman in expensive athleisure sat at my usual table, laptop open, eyes sharp. She ordered a single espresso and made it last 3 hours, never once looking up but seeing everything. My phone buzzed. "Marcus Donovan, Vincent says you're uncomfortable. Where would you prefer to work?" The presumption made me furious. Work. Like I'd already signed a contract written in surveillance and money. I didn't agree to anything, I typed back. "You took the money. You didn't give me a choice. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. You always have a choice, Lily. You can give it back. Walk away. But the man in the Honda doesn't disappear just because you refuse my help. So choose pride or safety. I'll respect either one. I stared at the message until the screen went dark. Vincent caught my eye in the rearview mirror, patient and impassive. A memory surfaced, sharp and unwelcome. 16 years old, hiding in a closet while my mother's boyfriend destroyed our apartment. The sound of breaking glass. David crying in the next room. The moment I learned that pride was a luxury and survival was the only currency that mattered. I'd chosen silence then, chosen smallness, chosen to disappear rather than fight. What would choosing look like now? Take me to Mr. Donovan, I said. Vincent's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his posture. Approval, maybe, or pity. The penthouse in Tribeca was nothing like I'd imagined. I'd expected cold luxury, all marble and steel, but instead it was warm. Wood floors, soft lighting, art on every wall. My art, I recognized piece after piece, sketches I'd sold at street fairs and online, framed like they belonged in museums. 12 drawings spanning 3 years of my life, cataloged and cared for. Marcus stood at the window on the phone, speaking rapid Italian. The language sounded like music and threats at once. When he saw me, he ended the call mid-sentence. "You're angry," he observed. "You know everything about me. I know nothing about you. Would you like to?" The question hung between us, dangerous and genuine. I wanted to say no, wanted to throw his money back at him and walk out. But I looked at my drawings on his walls, all those cages and shadows, all that pain turned into art, and realized he'd been studying my trauma like a language he wanted to learn. "Yes," I said. "I would." He gestured to the couch. I sat. He didn't join me, instead staying near the window like he needed the light or the distance or both. 3 weeks ago, I attended a gallery opening in Chelsea. Your work was there, a piece called Breathing Room, a woman trapped behind glass, palm pressed to the surface. I bought it. The gallery owner mentioned you'd sold 12 similar pieces over the past year, all exploring confinement. I bought those too. Why? Because I recognized them. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. Marcus glanced at the screen and everything about him changed. His jaw tightened, his shoulders squared, the warmth in his eyes vanished behind something cold and tactical. He turned the phone toward me without a word. A text message. 4 words. "She's prettier in person." Below it, a photo. Me, this morning, in my bedroom, through my window. The angle showed I'd been getting dressed, caught mid-motion reaching for a sweater, unaware and exposed. My skin went numb. "We're leaving," Marcus said, already moving. "Now, I don't understand. You're not collateral damage, Lily. You were chosen." As a message to me, Vincent materialized from somewhere, and suddenly we were descending in an elevator that dropped so fast my stomach lurched. Not the main elevator, a private one. The doors opened to an underground garage where a different car waited. Something sleek and black that looked like it could survive an explosion. Probably could. Marcus held the door open. I hesitated for half a heartbeat, looking back toward the elevator, toward escape. But the photo was burned into my mind. My bedroom, my private space, already violated. I got in. Vincent drove this time with a precision that suggested military training. Marcus sat beside me in the back, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body, smell his cologne, cedar and something darker, like smoke. He made 3 calls in quick succession, each conversation clipped and coded. Initiate blackout protocol. Yes, Brooklyn and Queens. Every camera we have access to. I want faces. The city blurred past the tinted windows. I tried to orient myself but couldn't. East? South? We crossed the Brooklyn Bridge and dove into neighborhoods I didn't recognize. Industrial areas where buildings hunched together like conspirators. "The message isn't for me," Marcus said finally, pocketing his phone. "It's from someone who wants to hurt me by hurting people I protect. He knows I've noticed you." Noticed? The word tasted wrong. "You've been collecting my art for a year. You've been watching me?" Yes. The honesty was brutal. No apology, no justification. Just acknowledgement. Your drawings, he continued, pulling up photos on his phone. I bought this one 11 months ago at a street fair in Williamsburg. Golden wire. A bird trapped in a beautiful cage. You see what others miss, Lily. That protection and imprisonment can look identical. That luxury and captivity share the same architecture. I stared at the image. I remembered drawing it, remembered the feeling that had driven the charcoal across paper, the suffocation of safety, the way being saved could feel like being owned. You understand the price of protection, he said quietly. That's rare, valuable, and very dangerous in my world, because it means you see the truth about men like me. The car stopped. We'd arrived at a warehouse in Red Hook, the kind of building that looked abandoned from the outside but hummed with quiet activity within. Vincent opened the door, checked the perimeter, nodded once. Marcus exited first, then offered me his hand. I didn't take it. I climbed out on my own, and something flickered in his expression. Approval or disappointment, I couldn't tell. Inside, the warehouse was transformed, not abandoned at all. Security monitors lined one wall showing camera feeds from across the city. Men in suits moved with purpose, speaking in low voices. This was command central for something, an operation I couldn't begin to understand. The air smelled like concrete and gun oil and fear. Marcus led me to a back office. Inside, a man sat bound to a chair, middle-aged, white baseball cap on the floor beside him. Blood crusted under his nose. His eye was swelling shut, but he was conscious, alert. And when he saw me, he smiled. That smile, I knew it. The predatory curl of lips, the confidence of men who'd never faced real consequences. My stomach turned. This is Detective Raymond Walsh, Marcus said, his voice clinical. Retired NYPD. He's been following you for 3 weeks, providing information to parties interested in my business. He's also the one who took that photo this morning. Walsh's smile widened. She's a pretty thing. Shame to waste her on you, Donovan. Marcus's expression didn't change, but I felt the violence radiating off him like heat. He turned to me instead, deliberate in his control. I need you to draw his face, he said, every detail. Because when we release him, I want him to know he's been seen, truly seen, that someone looked at him and recorded exactly what he is. That's the language men like him understand, being witnessed. A table held art supplies, charcoal, sketch paper, everything I'd need. I should have refused, should have demanded to leave. But I looked at Walsh, at that smug smile, and remembered Thomas. Remembered every man who'd made me feel hunted and small and invisible. Remembered that Thomas had worn a badge too, had used authority as a weapon, had never faced justice because the system protected its own. My hand was steady when I picked up the charcoal. Sit still, detective, I said. For the next hour, I drew. Not just his face, his truth, every cruel line around his mouth, every calculation behind his eyes, the way his fingers twitched with barely contained violence, the self-satisfaction of a man who'd spent decades hurting people weaker than himself. I drew what I saw, and what I saw was monstrous. Marcus watched me, not Walsh. I felt his gaze like pressure on my skin. When I finished, he took the drawing, studied it for a long moment, then showed it to Walsh. The smile finally died. You see yourself now? Marcus asked quietly. This is what you look like. What you are. Remember it. Walsh's face went pale. Something about seeing himself, really seeing, cracked his composure. His hands shook against the restraints. On the drive back, Marcus's hand found mine in the dark. Just for a moment. His palm was warm, calloused, surprisingly gentle. You weren't afraid, he said. I've been afraid my whole life. I'm tired of it. He didn't respond, but his fingers tightened around mine before letting go. Outside my apartment, he walked me to the door. For the first time since this began, I felt the urge to invite him in. Not from fear, but from a dangerous curiosity about who this man was beneath the power and control. Get some sleep, he said. Tomorrow I show you why protection became necessary. I unlocked my door, stepped inside. The apartment felt different. Wrong. I couldn't place it until I saw my desk. Papers slightly moved. My sketchbook opened to a different page than I'd left it. Someone had been here, on my pillow, an envelope. Inside, a photo. Me and David at his graduation last spring, arms around each other, smiling like we'd survived something, which we had. On the back, one word in red ink. Soon. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. The photo sat on my nightstand like a bomb, and every creak of the building made my heart slam against my ribs. At 4 a.m, I gave up pretending and called the number Marcus had programmed into my phone. He answered on the first ring, voice alert. He hadn't been sleeping either. They were in my apartment, I said, hating how my voice shook. I know. Vincent's reviewing security footage now. I'm coming to you. No, I'll come there. A pause, then, why? Because they've already taken my home. I won't let them take my choices too. 20 minutes later, Vincent picked me up. Marcus was waiting in his penthouse with coffee and something that looked almost like fear in his eyes. He took the photo from my hands carefully, like it might burn him, and studied David's face captured in pixels and threat. Your brother, he said. David Chen, 23, graduate student at NYU studying social work. Lives in Queens with 2 roommates. Takes the N train to campus. Gets coffee at the same bodega every morning. The surveillance should have terrified me. Instead, I felt a strange relief that someone was watching David, keeping track, making sure he stayed visible in a city designed for people to disappear. He can't know about this, I said. About any of this. David is good, Marcus. He stayed good despite everything we survived. I won't let your world touch him. Something shifted in Marcus's expression. Recognition, maybe, or old pain surfacing. He set the photo down and moved to the window, staring out at the city beginning to wake, painted in shades of gray and gold. I had a sister, he said quietly. And the words felt like something he'd kept locked away for years. Sophia. She was 3 years older, and she protected me. Our father was violent, the kind of violent that leaves scars inside and out. She'd step between us, take the hits meant for me. When I got old enough to fight back, to build something that could protect us both, she was already gone. Overdose. 21 years old. The confession hung in the air like smoke. I watched his reflection in the window, saw the way his shoulders tensed against the memory, the way his hands curled into fists before deliberately relaxing. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it with a depth that surprised me. Don't be smart, be careful, and let me keep you safe the way I couldn't keep her safe. He turned then, and the vulnerability in his eyes was so raw it hurt to look at. This was the truth beneath the power. A man haunted by the people he'd failed to save, trying to rewrite history through every person he protected now. I have 3 rules for you, he said, voice steadier now, rebuilding his armor. First, you don't go anywhere without Vincent or someone from my team. Second, you tell me the truth, always, even when it's hard, especially then. Third, you trust that I will do everything in my power to keep you and David safe. Everything. Lily, no matter the cost. The weight of those rules settled over me like chains made of silk. Binding but not cruel. Restrictive but not malicious. I thought about the past 10 years, about building a life so small no one could take it away, about the exhaustion of being my own protector every single day. And what's my rule for you? The question surprised us both. Marcus went very still. What? You gave me 3 rules. I get 1 for you. That's fair. Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, respect, something warmer that he tried to hide. He moved closer, until I could see the flecks of blue in his gray eyes, like sky breaking through storm clouds. Name it, he said. Don't lie to me about the danger. Don't treat me like I'm fragile or stupid or need to be protected from the truth. I've survived worse than you know, Marcus. If I'm in this, if I'm accepting your help, then I'm in it with my eyes open. Don't you dare try to soften reality for me. The silence stretched between us, charged with something I couldn't name. He studied my face like I was a puzzle he was trying to solve. Like my words had rearranged something fundamental in how he saw me. Deal, he said finally. Truth, always. Even when it's ugly. Especially when it's ugly. His lips curved into something that might have been a smile on someone else. On him, it looked like hope trying to remember how to exist. The man threatening you, he said, sitting down on the couch and gesturing for me to join him. an invitation, not a command. His name is Dominic Castellano. He worked for my family for 20 years, helped run operations in Brooklyn and Queens. When my sister died, I started changing things, going legitimate, cleaning up the violence, the trafficking, the extortion. Dominic saw it as betrayal, saw me as weak. I sat, leaving space between us, watching his face as he spoke. 6 months ago, he broke away, took loyalists with him, tried to rebuild the old empire I was dismantling. I've been methodically destroying his operations, using law enforcement, using financial pressure, everything legal, everything clean, and it's working. He's losing power, losing money, losing respect, so now he's desperate. And desperate men hurt people, I said. Desperate men send messages. When he discovered I'd been collecting your art, that I'd been noticing you, he decided you were proof I'd gone soft, that caring about something beyond power made me vulnerable. He wants to hurt you to prove a point to everyone watching, that I can't protect what I care about. The word care hung in the air between us, heavy with implication. Why me? I asked. Why not someone else you know? Someone in your world who understands the risks. Marcus looked at me then with something too honest to be comfortable. Because everyone in my world wants something from me. Power, money, protection, fear. But you never knew who I was. You just drew your truth and sold it for whatever people would pay. You weren't performing for me or anyone. And for a year, your art was the only honest thing in my life. My throat tightened. I didn't know what to say to that. To being seen not as a person, but as a source of truth in a world built on lies. It should have felt objectifying, but somehow it felt like the most genuine compliment I'd ever received. So now we're both trapped, I said. You by Dominic's revenge, me by your protection. Are you trapped? I looked around the penthouse, at my drawings on the walls, at the coffee he'd made the way I liked it without asking, at the exhaustion in his eyes that matched my own, at this man who'd spent a year memorizing my art like scripture, who'd lost a sister and was trying to save everyone else to make up for it, who wielded power like a weapon but offered it to me like a gift I could refuse. I don't know yet, I admitted. That night, I stayed in the penthouse. Not in Marcus's room. He gave me the guest suite, all white linens and soft lighting, like sleeping inside a cloud. But I couldn't sleep. Around 2 a.m, I found him on the terrace, smoking a cigarette and staring at the city like it held answers he couldn't find. I didn't know you smoked, I said. Haven't in 5 years. But tonight feels like a 5 years ago kind of night. I sat beside him on the cold stone bench. He offered me the cigarette. I took it, inhaled, coughed. He almost smiled. Tell me about Thomas, he said gently. The name Dominic mentioned. Tell me who he is. And just like that, the past I'd spent 10 years burying cracked open. Thomas Chen. No relation, just the cruelest coincidence of shared last names. He was my mother's boyfriend when I was 15, a time when we were so poor that any man with money looked like salvation. Thomas was a cop, NYPD, and he seemed different from the parade of losers my mother usually brought home. He paid our rent, bought David new shoes, took us to Coney Island and let David ride every ride twice. For 6 months, I believed we were safe. The first time his hand lingered too long on my shoulder, I told myself I was imagining it. When he started commenting on my body, how I was becoming a woman, how I should be careful about what I wore, I started dressing in oversized sweatshirts even in summer. When I caught him watching me change through a crack in my bedroom door, I pushed my dresser against it every night. My mother was so happy. She laughed again, sang while she cooked. David had a father figure who taught him to throw a baseball. I couldn't destroy that. So I stayed quiet and made myself smaller and prayed Thomas would lose interest. He didn't. I was 16 when he came into my room one night. My mother was working a double shift. David was asleep down the hall. Thomas sat on my bed and I could smell alcohol and cologne and something darker. Intention. He told me I was special, that he'd been patient, that it was time I showed him gratitude for everything he'd done for our family. I grabbed the only weapon I had, my sketchbook, heavy with pages of drawings, and I ran. Barefoot, in my pajamas. I ran into the November cold and didn't stop until I reached a church 3 blocks away. The priest called the police. Different cops came, colleagues of Thomas, and they looked at me like I was the problem, a troubled teen, acting out, making accusations against a good man who'd only tried to help. Thomas told them I was jealous of his relationship with my mother, that I'd been hostile from the start, that this was a cry for attention. They believed him. He wore a badge. I wore secondhand clothes and trauma like a second skin. Child services got involved, but not the way they should have. My mother chose Thomas, actually chose him over us, insisted we were lying, that we were ungrateful. David and I went into foster care. He was 12 and didn't understand why our lives had exploded, why our mother didn't want us, why the man who'd taught him baseball had turned into a monster. We spent 2 years in the system, separated for most of it. I drew every single day because it was the only way to prove to myself that I was real, that what happened had happened, that I wasn't the crazy one. When I aged out at 18, I fought for custody of David. Spent 3 years working 2 jobs and living in a room the size of a closet until I could bring him home. By then, the damage was done. David had nightmares, trust issues, a deep suspicion of authority that nearly got him arrested twice. I spent years helping him heal, teaching him to draw like I did, showing him how to put the poison onto paper so it didn't stay in your blood. And Thomas? He left the force in 2018, took early retirement with full benefits, and disappeared into whatever life men like him build on the backs of the children they destroy. I never looked for him, never tried to find out if he'd hurt other girls, though I knew he had. I just survived. That's all I had energy for, surviving and making sure David survived too. He was never charged, I said, my voice hollow and far away. Never even investigated properly. My mother died 3 years ago, cirrhosis, still with Thomas. She never apologized, never admitted she'd chosen wrong, and I never forgave her. I don't know if that makes me cruel or just honest. Marcus had stopped smoking. The cigarette burned down to ash in his fingers. Forgotten. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough with barely contained rage. Where is he now? I don't know. I never wanted to know. I just wanted to forget he existed. Dominic knows him, Marcus said quietly, which means Thomas has been watching you again, feeding him information, which means Thomas saw you, recognized you, and decided to hurt you all over again. For money, for power, for whatever Dominic offered him. The truth of it hit me like a fist to the stomach. Thomas had found me. After all these years of hiding, of building a life so carefully invisible, he'd found me and sold that information to a man who wanted to use me as a weapon against Marcus. I need you to understand something, Marcus said, and his voice was different now. Harder, colder, the voice of the man who'd dismantled criminal empires. Thomas made a choice 10 years ago to hurt you. He made another choice 3 weeks ago to hurt you again. Those are his choices, his sins. But what happens next? That's mine. And I promise you, Lily, he will answer for both. Don't, I said automatically. Don't do something you can't take back because of me. Too late. I decided the moment I saw your art that anyone who'd hurt you had hurt me. I just didn't know his name yet. He made a call. Spoke in clipped sentences I couldn't entirely follow. When he hung up, his expression was grim. Thomas Chen left NYPD in 2018 after an internal investigation into misconduct, not yours. 3 other families filed complaints that went nowhere. He's been working private security since mostly for people who need someone willing to bend rules. And for the past 6 months, he's been on Dominic's payroll, full-time. My hands were shaking. I pressed them against my thighs, trying to steady myself. But the tremors wouldn't stop. Marcus saw. He moved closer, slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. Look at me, he said. I did. His eyes were storm gray and absolutely certain. He doesn't get to hurt you again. I don't care what I have to burn down to make sure of it. Do you understand? I nodded because I couldn't speak. And then, because the wall between us had already crumbled. Because he'd shared his sister and I'd shared my monster. I leaned forward and pressed my forehead against his shoulder. Just for a moment. Just long enough to remember what it felt like to be held up by someone else's certainty when your own had shattered. Marcus's hand came up slowly, carefully, and rested against the back of my head, not pulling me closer, just holding me steady. You're not alone anymore, he whispered. You're not invisible, and you're sure as hell not his victim. Not ever again. We stayed like that until dawn broke over the city, until Vincent knocked quietly to say they'd located Thomas's apartment in Staten Island, until the moment ended and the war began. But before we moved, Before plans were made and violence set in motion, Marcus pulled back and looked at me with something too complicated to name. "I need to tell you something, and you're going to hate me for it." My stomach dropped. "What?" "I've known about Thomas for 2 weeks. Since the first time Dominic sent a message referencing your past, I had my people dig into your history, find the connections, understand what he might use against you. I knew Thomas was working for him. I knew he was probably the one following you. And I didn't tell you because I wanted to catch them both. And I thought if you knew, you might run, might disappear, and then I couldn't protect you." The betrayal hit like ice water. He'd known. Known Thomas was back in my life, circling like a shark, and he'd kept it from me. Used me as bait, just like he'd used my art as bait for Dominic. "You used me," I said, my voice shaking with fury and something worse, disappointment. "You let me think I was paranoid about the car, let me think I was crazy, when you knew exactly who was watching and why." "Yes," Marcus said, and at least he didn't try to soften it. "I used you. I'm not a good man pretending to be better, Lily. I'm a dangerous man trying to do the right thing with the wrong tools. I manipulated the situation to catch 2 men who needed to be caught. But I also meant every word I said about protecting you. Both things are true, and you get to decide if that's something you can live with." I stood up, needing distance, needing air. The terrace suddenly felt too small. Behind me, the city sprawled out in endless lights. Millions of people living their lives. And here I was, trapped in a penthouse with a man who'd weaponized my trauma in the name of justice. "I need to think," I said. "Take all the time you need." "But Lily, Thomas doesn't wait while you think. Dominic doesn't pause for clarity. The threat is real and it's immediate. And whatever you decide about me, please let Vincent keep you safe." I turned back to look at him. He looked exhausted, older than his years, like the weight of protecting people was slowly crushing him. And despite everything, despite the manipulation and the secrets and the calculated way he'd inserted himself into my life, I believed him. Believed he'd die before letting Thomas or Dominic touch me. That belief didn't make the betrayal hurt less. It just made it more complicated. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't open it, but something, instinct, dread, made me look. A video message, 10 seconds long. I pressed play with trembling hands. Thomas's face filled the screen, older but unmistakable. That same smile, the one that pretended kindness while planning cruelty. "Hey Lily, long time. Heard you've been busy, making friends in high places. That's good, real good, but your new boyfriend can't protect everyone, sweetheart. Some debts are older than his money." The camera panned, and my heart stopped. David, unconscious, tied to a chair in what looked like a warehouse, blood crusted at his temple. His face was pale, and I couldn't tell if he was breathing. Thomas's voice continued, cheerful and poisonous. "See you real soon. Let's finish that conversation we started 10 years ago." The video ended. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The phone slipped from my hands and Marcus caught it, watched the video, and his expression turned to stone. "Vincent!" he called, already moving. "Get everyone. Now. I want that location found in the next 10 minutes or people start losing jobs and teeth." But I barely heard him. I was trapped in the image of David's face, unconscious and bleeding, taken because of me, because I'd tried to be visible, because I'd accepted Marcus's protection, because 10 years ago, I'd run instead of staying silent, and Thomas had never forgiven me for it. This was my fault. All of it. The ghosts I'd tried to bury had risen, and now they were taking everyone I loved. The world narrowed to a single point. David's unconscious face, the blood at his temple, the way his head hung forward like a broken thing. I couldn't feel my legs. Couldn't feel anything except the screaming certainty that this was my fault, that every choice I'd made had led to this moment, that loving people made them targets. Marcus was already on the phone, his voice sharp and controlled in a way that suggested violence barely leashed. "I want satellite imaging on every warehouse in a 50-mile radius. Cross-reference with properties Dominic has access to, owned, leased, or connected through shell companies. I want faces on every camera between here and Staten Island. And I want Thomas Chen's location history for the past 72 hours. 10 minutes. That's what you have." He hung up and turned to me. I must have looked like I was falling apart because his expression shifted from tactical to something almost gentle. Breathe, Lily. We're going to find him. They have David because of me. Because I accepted your money. Because I was visible. Because 10 years ago I ran instead of... Stop. Marcus's hands were on my shoulders and firm enough to ground me. You ran because you were 16 years old and a grown man was about to rape you. You survived. That's not a sin. That's a miracle. And Thomas taking David isn't your fault. It's his, and Dominic's, and mine, for not moving fast enough. We have to call the police. Something flickered in his eyes. Not quite pity. More like painful understanding. Lily. Thomas was a cop. Dominic has half of Brooklyn PD on his payroll. If we call this in through official channels, David disappears into a system designed to protect men like them. Or worse, the wrong people get tipped off and we lose any chance of finding him alive. The words, finding him alive, hit me like a physical blow. Alive implied the possibility of dead. Implied that David, good, gentle David, who'd survived our childhood and built something beautiful out of trauma, might already be gone. I was going to be sick. Vincent appeared in the doorway with 3 other men, all of them moving with the same controlled urgency. One of them, younger, maybe 30, with a laptop under his arm, started setting up on the dining table. Within seconds, screens filled with satellite imagery, traffic camera feeds, data scrolling too fast for me to process. Warehouse in Sunset Park, the tech guy said, his fingers flying across the keyboard. Registered to a shell company that traces back to Castellano, purchased 8 months ago, minimal activity until yesterday. Heat signatures show at least 6 people inside, 2 stationary. 1 matches the size profile for your brother. Marcus moved to look at the screens, his jaw tight. How sure are you? 90%. Building layout matches the background in the video. And check this. Traffic cam caught Thomas Chen's car entering the area 2 hours ago. He's still there. I moved closer, staring at the grainy footage of a warehouse that held my brother. It looked abandoned from the outside. Windows dark, but the heat signatures told a different story. 6 people. 6 men between David and freedom. We go in quiet, Marcus said. No guns unless absolutely necessary. The goal is extraction, not execution. Vincent, take point. I want David out and safe before anyone even knows we're there. What about the police presence? Vincent asked. Even if they're not responding to the scene, someone will notice eventually. Marcus's expression hardened. Then we make sure this looks like something they can't ignore. I've been building a case against Dominic for 6 months. Time to deliver it all at once. He made another call, this one on speakerphone. Agent Morrison, it's Donovan. Remember that favor you said I could call in? I'm calling it. I have a location on Dominic Castellano, evidence of kidnapping, and enough documentation to make your career. But you need to move now, and you need to move federal. No local PD involvement. A woman's voice, cautious but interested. What's the location? Marcus rattled off the address. You have maybe 30 minutes before this goes sideways. I'm extracting a civilian. You're arresting everyone else. We clear. Crystal, but Donovan, this makes us even... After this, I don't owe you anything. Fair enough. He hung up and turned to me. The man I saw wasn't the one who'd collected my art or offered me coffee or confessed about his sister. This was the other Marcus, the one who'd survived a violent father and built an empire and knew exactly how to dismantle men like Dominic. You're staying here, he said, and it wasn't a question. No, that's my brother, which is exactly why you're staying here. If something goes wrong, if they use David as leverage, I can't have you there for them to grab. I can't focus on extraction and protecting you. Please, Lily, trust me to bring him home. Every instinct screamed to fight, to demand to go, to refuse to be left behind while David was in danger. But I looked at Marcus's face, at the absolute certainty there, at the way his hands were steady even though I knew he was preparing for violence. Bring him back, I whispered. Whatever it costs. Bring him back. I promise. They left within minutes. Vincent, Marcus, and 4 other men whose names I didn't know, moving with military precision. The tech guy, his name was Eric, he told me gently, stayed behind, monitoring feeds, keeping communication open. I watched the screens like they held my brother's heartbeat, watched the dots representing Marcus's team move through the city toward Sunset Park. He's good at this, Eric said quietly. Mr. Donovan, The extraction stuff. He got my sister out of a trafficking situation 3 years ago. 17 years old. Taken from Queens. He found her in 72 hours and brought her home. Didn't charge my family a cent. That's who he is when you cut through all the other stuff. I wanted to be comforted by that. But all I could think about was the video. David's unconscious face, Thomas's smile. 10 years I'd been running from that smile, and it had found me anyway. Found David because of me. On the screen, the team arrived at the warehouse. The feed switched to body cameras. I could see through their eyes as they approached. Weapons drawn but held low, moving in formation. Vincent's voice came through the comms, low and controlled. Heat signatures unchanged. 2 guards outside, 4 inside. Target is in the back room, northwest corner. Stay non-lethal unless they escalate, Marcus's voice responded. We're 30 seconds out from federal arrival. Make this clean. What happened next unfolded so fast I could barely process it. The team moved like water, flowing around obstacles, taking down the outside guards with controlled strikes that left them unconscious but breathing. Inside, the warehouse was darker, but their cameras had night vision. I saw men with guns. Saw the moment one of them spotted the team and shouted. Saw Marcus move with a speed that didn't match his size. And then I saw Thomas. He was standing outside a closed door, and even through the grainy night vision, I could see that predatory smile. He raised his hands slowly, almost mockingly. Easy now, Thomas said, his voice carrying through the feed. We're all friends here, just having a conversation with an old friend's little brother. Nothing illegal about that. Step away from the door, Marcus said, and his voice was ice. Now, or what? You gonna shoot a retired cop? That'll look real good on the news. Mafia boss kills officer trying to protect a witness. You're not protecting anyone. You're a predator who's been preying on children for 20 years. And as of about 30 seconds ago, you're also under federal investigation. 6 families. Thomas. 6 families came forward once the FBI started asking questions. You're done. I saw Thomas's smile falter, saw him glance toward a window like he was calculating escape routes. And then sirens filled the air. Not NYPD sirens, but the distinct sound of federal vehicles. Agent Morrison had arrived. Federal agents, a voice boomed through a bullhorn outside. Everyone inside the building, hands where we can see them. Chaos erupted. Dominic's men tried to run, tried to fight, but Marcus's team had already secured the exits. Federal agents poured in, tactical gear, and shouted commands, and through it all, Marcus moved to that door, to David. The camera showed him kicking it open. And there was my brother, conscious now, groggy but alive, tied to a chair but breathing. Relief hit me so hard I collapsed onto the couch, sobbing into my hands while Eric kept narrating what I could barely see through tears. He's okay. Your brother's okay. They're cutting him loose. Paramedics are coming in. On screen, I watched Marcus crouch in front of David, watched him say something I couldn't hear, watched David nod weakly. And then Marcus was lifting him, supporting his weight, carrying him out of that room while federal agents swarmed the building. I saw them arrest Thomas, saw his face go from confident to panicked as they read him his rights, as Agent Morrison personally put him in handcuffs. Saw Dominic try to run and get tackled by 3 agents. Saw the warehouse flood with law enforcement while Marcus's team melted into the shadows, disappearing before anyone could ask too many questions. An hour later, they arrived back at the penthouse. David was conscious, bruised, confused, but alive. I ran to him and he held me, and we both cried like we were 16 and 12 again, like we were back in that moment when our world fell apart and all we had was each other. I'm sorry, I kept saying. I'm so sorry. Not your fault. He murmured into my hair. Never your fault, Lily. The paramedic cleared him, concussion, bruised ribs, dehydration, but nothing permanent. They wanted him to go to the hospital for observation, but David refused, clinging to me like I might disappear. So the paramedic left supplies and instructions, and finally it was just us, me and David and Marcus, standing awkwardly in his living room, looking at the wreckage of the night. Thank you, David said to Marcus, his voice rough. Lily told me, some of it, about Thomas, about what he did. I never knew the details. She protected me from it. She protected you from a lot of things, Marcus said quietly. She's been protecting you since you were 12 years old. Now it's someone else's turn to protect her. David looked between us, trying to understand the dynamic, the history, the complicated truth of what we were to each other. Are you together? It's complicated, I said. It always is, David replied, and despite everything, he almost smiled. But he saved my life, so I'm saying thank you, and I'm going to sleep for about 16 hours, and then I'm going to have a lot of questions. Vincent set him up in a guest room. When he was settled, when his breathing had evened into sleep, I found Marcus on the terrace again. He wasn't smoking this time, just standing in the cold, looking at the city like it had taken something from him. Thank you, I said. Don't thank me. David was taken because of me. Because Dominic saw you as my weakness. You saved him. I endangered him first. We stood in silence, the distance between us feeling like miles instead of feet. Finally, I moved closer. I watched you tonight, I said, on the cameras. Watched you move through that warehouse. You were precise, controlled, like you've done it 1,000 times. I have. And you called the FBI instead of handling it yourself? You could have just taken them out, made them disappear, but you didn't. I'm trying to be better than what I was built to be, he said quietly. Doesn't always work, but I keep trying. I thought about that, about a man raised in violence, trying to build something clean from dirty tools, about using power to dismantle power, about the impossible space between justice and revenge. The FBI agent, I said. Morrison. She said you're even now. What did she mean? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. 3 years ago, her daughter was kidnapped by men in my former organization. Men I hadn't cleaned out yet. I found her, brought her home, gave Morrison everything she needed to destroy them. It cost me allies, earned me enemies, but it was the right thing to do. You've been doing this for years, saving people, burning your own empire down to do it. My empire was built on suffering. Every dollar had blood on it. What's the point of power if it just perpetuates pain? So yes, I've been dismantling it, piece by piece, making enemies of men who used to call me brother. And tonight proved why I can't stop. Because men like Dominic and Thomas don't retire. They just find new victims. I moved closer until I could see his reflection in the glass. What happens now? To them, Thomas is facing charges in multiple jurisdictions. 6 families willing to testify. Dominic is looking at federal kidnapping charges, racketeering, conspiracy. They're both going to prison for a very long time. And every cop on Dominic's payroll is about to have a very bad year because Morrison loves putting away dirty cops. Good, I said, and meant it with a ferocity that surprised me. Marcus turned to look at me finally. You should hate me. I used you, manipulated the situation, put David in danger. I agreed. But you also destroyed the men who hurt me, gave me justice the system never did, saved my brother. And somehow, in the middle of all that calculation and manipulation, I think you actually cared. Both things are true, Marcus. You used me and you'd die for me. And I don't know what to do with that except try to understand it. Something in his expression cracked. Relief or gratitude or something more complicated. He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. I don't deserve your understanding. Probably not. But I'm giving it anyway. We stood like that, close enough to touch but not quite touching, while the city hummed below us. Inside, David slept safely. Across town, Thomas and Dominic sat in federal custody, and between Marcus and me, something fragile and complicated was being built from trauma and trust, and the dangerous recognition that sometimes salvation comes from unexpected places. My phone buzzed. News alert. I opened it and froze. The headline, Mafia boss turned informant. Marcus Donovan's cooperation with FBI leads to major arrests. The article detailed everything: his work with Morrison, the evidence he'd provided against Dominic, his role in tonight's rescue. But it also included speculation. Quotes from anonymous sources suggesting his cooperation was just another power play, that he was eliminating rivals under the guise of going legitimate. And there, in the third paragraph, was my name. Sources confirm the kidnapping victim's sister, artist Lily Chen, has been romantically involved with Donovan for several months, raising questions about whether tonight's rescue was personal vendetta or criminal strategy. Marcus read over my shoulder, his jaw tightened. "They're making me the story," I said, "making us the story. Like David being kidnapped was just drama in a mob romance. I can fix this. I have publicists, lawyers." "No," I stopped him. "No more fixing. No more controlling the narrative. I'm done letting other people write my story. What are you going to do?" I looked at the article, at my name reduced to a footnote in someone else's war, and made a decision. I'm going to tell the truth. Mine. Not theirs. Not yours. Mine. And for the first time since this began, I felt something other than fear. I felt angry. And anger, I was learning, could be a kind of power too. The news broke like a wildfire. By morning, my face was everywhere. Grainy photos of me entering Marcus's building, leaving the FBI office, standing on his terrace. Headlines screamed variations of the same story. Mafia boss's mistress, artist caught in crime family drama, Stockholm Syndrome or strategic alliance. Every outlet had an opinion about who I was, what I wanted, whether I was victim or accomplice or something more sinister. I watched it unfold from Marcus's guest room while David slept down the hall, his breathing steady but his face still bruised. My phone vibrated constantly. Reporters, former clients, people I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly desperate for my story. Marcus's lawyers materialized before breakfast, crisp suits and leather briefcases full of NDAs and strategic silence. "Miss Chen," the lead attorney said, her voice professionally sympathetic, "we can make this disappear, control the narrative. Mr. Donovan has relationships with every major media outlet in the city. With your cooperation, we can reframe this entirely. Position you as an unwitting victim, secure compensation, ensure your privacy moving forward." I looked at the contracts spread across the dining table, at Marcus standing by the window, deliberately not pressuring me but clearly hoping I'd sign, at the lawyers who'd probably buried 100 inconvenient truths for men with power and money. "No," I said. The attorney blinked. "I'm sorry. No, I'm not signing anything. I'm not letting you rewrite what happened, and I'm not disappearing." Marcus turned from the window. "Lily, they're going to destroy you. Every detail of your life, every trauma you've survived, they'll turn it into entertainment. Let us protect you from that." "You mean let you control it?" "Control me." Again. The word hung in the air like an accusation, because that's what it was. Every choice since the grocery store had been orchestrated. His money, his protection, his carefully constructed rescue. Even his honesty about manipulation was just another form of control, making me complicit by making me understand. "That's not fair," Marcus said quietly. "Isn't it? You've been deciding what I know, when I know it, how to keep me safe. You called the FBI, you planned the rescue, you're offering lawyers to manage my story. When do I get to decide anything?" The attorney looked between us, sensing the personal nature of the argument, and quietly excused herself. When the door closed, Marcus moved closer but didn't touch me. "You're right," he said. "About all of it. I've been making decisions for you because that's what I know how to do. Control situations, manage outcomes, protect people whether they ask for it or not. It's how I kept my sister alive for as long as I did. It's how I've survived. But you're not my sister, and you're not someone who needs saving. You've been saving yourself since you were 16. I just forgot that." The admission surprised me. No defensiveness, no justification, just acknowledgement. "I need to do this my way," I said. "Face the reporters, tell my story, own it instead of hiding from it. They'll crucify you, maybe, but it'll be my choice. My voice, not yours, not theirs, mine." Something shifted in Marcus's expression. Not defeat, but recognition, maybe even respect. "Then I'll make sure you have the platform to do it right. But Lily, once you step into that spotlight, you can't step back. Everything changes. Your privacy, your safety, your brother's safety. Are you sure?" I thought about David sleeping down the hall, about how I'd spent 10 years trying to protect him by making us both invisible, about how that invisibility hadn't saved him. It had just delayed the inevitable, about how Thomas had found us anyway, and Dominic had used our silence as a weapon. I'm sure. By noon, I'd contacted 3 reporters directly, not through Marcus's people, not through lawyers, but from my own phone with my own words. I chose carefully. A woman from the Times known for nuanced crime reporting, an investigative journalist from the Washington Post who'd exposed corruption in NYPD, and a podcaster who specialized in survivor stories. I told them all the same thing. I would give them my story, the whole truth, if they agreed to certain terms. No sensationalism, no editing my words for drama, and most importantly, no speculation about my relationship with Marcus until I defined it myself. They all agreed. The interviews were scheduled for the next day. David woke up around 2, groggy and hurting but determined to understand everything. I sat with him in his room and told him the truth, about Thomas, about what had happened when I was 16, about why we'd ended up in foster care. Things I'd protected him from for years, now laid bare because he deserved to know. He cried. I cried. And then he said something that broke me. I always knew something happened. I just didn't know what. I thought it was my fault, that I'd done something to make Mom choose him over us. Never, I said fiercely. None of it was your fault. You were 12 years old. You were innocent. So were you, he said quietly. You were 16, and you've been carrying this alone for 10 years. Why didn't you tell me? Because you're good, David. You stayed good despite everything. I didn't want to poison that with my anger. Your anger kept us alive. His voice was soft but certain. Your anger got us out of foster care. Your anger made you fight for custody. Don't apologize for it now. That night, Marcus found me on the terrace again. It had become our place, this cold concrete space where we were honest with each other because the sky was too big for lies. David knows everything now, I said. About Thomas, about you, about why I'm doing the interviews. How did he take it? Better than I expected. He's angry, but not at me. At the system that failed us, at Thomas, at how long it took for anyone to care. He's right to be angry. I looked at Marcus then, really looked at him. He'd shaved, changed into casual clothes that made him look younger, more vulnerable. Without the armor of his suit, he was just a man. Tired, complicated, trying. I've been thinking, I said, about what you said. That you used me and you'd die for me, and both things are true. I meant it. I know. And I've been trying to figure out if I can live with that. With someone who loves me enough to manipulate me, who protects me by controlling everything around me. Can you? I was quiet for a long moment, watching the city lights flicker like distant stars. I don't know yet, but I know I can't figure it out while I'm living in your penthouse, protected by your people, speaking through your lawyers. I need space, Marcus. Real space, not surveillance dressed as safety. His jaw tightened, but he nodded. Okay, what do you need? An apartment? Something secure but not monitored. Money from my own work, not your deposits. Time to do the interviews, testify at the trials, figure out who I am when I'm not surviving. And us. The question hung between us, heavy with everything unspoken. I moved closer, close enough to see the flecks of blue in his gray eyes, the scar through his eyebrow, the worry lines that suggested he'd spent years carrying other people's pain. When this is over, I said carefully, when the trials are done and the reporters move on and I've rebuilt something that feels like my own life, ask me again. Ask me if I want to let you in, and I'll tell you the truth. The truth, he echoed. Always the truth. Always. He reached out slowly, cupped my face with one scarred hand. His thumb traced my cheekbone with a gentleness that contradicted everything I knew about him. I'll wait, he said, however long it takes. I've been waiting for something real since my sister died. I can wait a little longer. I leaned into his touch for just a moment, allowing myself the comfort of being held, of being seen. Then I stepped back, reclaiming the space between us. Thank you, I said, for saving David, for destroying Thomas, for trying to be better than what you were built to be. Thank you for seeing me as more than what I am. The interviews happened over 3 days. I told the Times reporter about Thomas, about the system that protected him, about how 15 years later he'd tried to hurt me again and finally faced consequences. I told the Post journalist about Dominic, about the 6 families who'd come forward once someone actually listened. about how corruption compounds when good people stay silent. And I told the podcaster about Marcus, not a love story, not a defense, but a complicated truth about a man trying to dismantle the empire that raised him. Is he a good man? She asked. I don't think that's the right question, I said. He's a man doing good things with tools built for bad purposes. He's someone who weaponizes power against powerful people. He's dangerous and protective and manipulative and genuine all at once. He's human. And maybe that's more honest than calling him simply good or bad. The episodes went viral. The Times piece was shared hundreds of thousands of times. Suddenly, I wasn't just like the Mafia boss's mistress. I was Lily Chen, survivor, artist, woman who'd turned her trauma into testimony. 3 galleries reached out about shows. A publisher wanted to do a book of my artwork with essays about each piece. David's university offered him counseling and support. Professors who'd survived similar trauma reaching out with resources. And more women came forward about Thomas. Not just 6 families, 12, 15, 20. A flood of voices that had been silent for decades, finally speaking because someone had spoken first. The trials moved forward quickly. Thomas's lawyer tried to claim entrapment, but the evidence was overwhelming. Decades of complaints, patterns of predation, his own words on the video threatening me. He was sentenced to 22 years. Dominic got 25 for kidnapping, racketeering, and a list of charges that took the judge 10 minutes to read. I testified at both trials, sat in the witness box and told the truth while Thomas stared at me with the same predatory smile, trying to make me small again. But I wasn't small anymore. I was visible. I was heard. And when the verdicts came down, I watched him led away in chains and felt something I hadn't felt in 15 years. Free. 3 months passed like seasons changing. I moved into a loft in Bushwick. Not expensive, not luxurious, but mine. David came over twice a week for dinner. We cooked together and talked about everything we'd never talked about before, filling in the gaps trauma had left. He started dating someone kind, a social work student who made him laugh. He looked lighter every time I saw him. My gallery show opened to sold-out crowds. The reviews called my work unflinching testimony and radical vulnerability. I sold everything, and this time the money was mine. Earned, not given. Not rescue, but recognition. Marcus kept his distance like he'd promised. But twice a week, a delivery arrived. Fresh flowers with no card, art supplies I'd mentioned needing, books he thought I'd like, small gestures that said, "I'm here," without demanding presents. I never acknowledged them, but I also never asked him to stop. The truth was, I missed him. Missed the weight of his attention, the safety of his certainty, the complicated honesty of someone who understood cages and freedom. But I also needed to prove to myself that I could build a life without him, that I wasn't just trading one form of dependence for another. 4 months after the trial ended, a package arrived at my door. Inside, a key on a simple chain, and a note in Marcus's handwriting. For when you're ready, no surveillance, no guards, just a door you can open or keep closed. Your choice. Always your choice. The key came with an address, a brownstone in Carroll Gardens, 3 blocks from Prospect Park. I walked past it twice before gathering the courage to go inside. The building was beautiful, original details preserved, hardwood floors, high ceilings, but most of it was empty. Except for one room on the 2nd floor, north-facing windows flooding it with perfect light. A studio. Professional easels, every art supply imaginable, space to create without constraint. And on a single table, another note. This place was my sister's. She wanted to be a painter. I bought it for her 21st birthday, but she died before she could move in. I've kept it empty for 7 years because I couldn't bear to see anyone else's dreams in her space. But I think she'd like knowing someone who survived is creating here. It's yours if you want it. No strings. No obligations. Just space to breathe. I stood in that light and cried. Not from sadness, but from the overwhelming recognition of being understood by someone as damaged and trying as myself. He wasn't offering me a home. He was offering me a sanctuary, a place to create without fear or surveillance or debt. He was giving me the thing I needed most, autonomy, wrapped in generosity. I texted him from the studio. Thank you, for the space, for understanding, for asking nothing. His response came an hour later. You're welcome. And for what it's worth, I've been in therapy. Turns out using people you care about as chess pieces is frowned upon. Who knew? I laughed out loud, alone in the empty studio. Texted back, "How's that going?" Terrible. Apparently, I have control issues and trouble with vulnerability and decades of unprocessed trauma. My therapist thinks I should try painting. Do you want to learn? The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Only if you teach me. No obligations, no guards, just 2 people drawing. If you want. I looked around the studio, at the gift of space and light and possibility. At the proof that someone could know you deeply, hurt you badly, and still choose to do better. That love, or whatever this was becoming, could be messy and complicated and still worth exploring. Tuesdays, I texted. 2 hours. Bring your own charcoal and Marcus. We're drawing hands first. You need to learn how to hold things gently. I'm a terrible student. I'm a patient teacher. We've got time. I sent the message and stood in the light, feeling something unfamiliar and fragile taking root in my chest. Not certainty, not love, not yet, but possibility. And maybe that was better, more honest, more real, more true to who we both were. Outside, the city hummed with life. David was safe. Thomas was in prison. And I was standing in a room that had once held someone else's dreams, about to fill it with my own. For the first time in 15 years, I wasn't running from anything. I was walking toward something. Slowly, carefully, with my eyes wide open, and that felt like freedom. 6 months passed like water finding its level, slowly at first, then all at once, settling into something that felt almost like peace. I testified in 3 more trials. Each time, I sat in that wooden chair and read from my drawings instead of speaking, letting the art testify to what words couldn't hold. Charcoal sketches of closed doors and watching eyes, of hands that hurt and hands that held, of the long shadow Thomas had cast across my childhood. The juries saw, really saw, and Thomas's lawyers had no cross-examination that could undo visual truth. 6 convictions. 12 families who finally got to say, "I told you so," to a system that had failed them. David came to every trial, sat in the gallery with his girlfriend Maya, and held my hand during the hard parts. Afterward, we'd go to the diner on Canal Street and eat pancakes at midnight like we were kids again. Except this time we weren't running from anything. We were running toward something, healing maybe, or at least the possibility of it. My art gained attention, but not from the scandal. A gallery owner in Chelsea saw the courtroom drawings and recognized something beyond trauma. She saw transformation, pain becoming power, survival becoming testimony. My first real show sold out opening night. The reviews called my work unflinching and redemptive, like those 2 words could exist in the same breath. Maybe they could. Maybe that was the whole point. The money from sales meant I didn't need Marcus's deposits anymore. I kept the studio. That gift felt different, less like rescue and more like recognition. But I returned everything else. Sent back the $50,000 with interest, closed the account his people had opened, made sure every dollar I spent was one I'd earned. The freedom of that was sweeter than any safety his money could buy. David thrived. He went back to school, started dating Maya seriously, told me one night over dim sum that he finally understood why I'd done what I did. "I was angry because I thought you'd become like them," he said, navigating chopsticks through lo mein. "But you didn't. You used their language to tell our story. That's not corruption, Lily. That's strategy. That's survival." The key to the studio sat on my dresser for weeks before I started using it regularly. At first, I'd visit for an hour, suspicious of the gift, waiting for strings to appear. But they never did. The space was mine. No cameras, no guards, just north-facing light and room to breathe. Eventually, I moved my easel there, my supplies, my half-finished pieces. It became my sanctuary in a way my apartment never could, because Marcus had given it freely and then walked away. That meant something. Maybe everything. The studio had been his sister's dream, and he'd preserved it like a shrine for 7 years, unable to let anyone else's creativity fill the space Sophia's death had left empty. But he'd given it to me, not because he wanted me dependent, but because he wanted someone who understood cages to have room to fly. That was love, I realized, not the controlling kind, the liberating kind, the kind that says, I see who you could become, and then steps back to let you become it. Tuesdays became our ritual. Marcus would show up at 2 o'clock exactly, always punctual, always carrying his own charcoal like I'd demanded. He was terrible at drawing. His hands too used to control to allow for the release art requires, his mind too tactical to surrender to intuition. But he kept coming, kept trying, kept sitting beside me in companionable silence while we worked. We didn't talk much during those sessions, didn't need to. But afterward, we'd sit on the studio floor and eat takeout, Thai food or pizza or Vietnamese sandwiches, and talk about everything else. He told me about therapy, about learning to identify his control patterns, about the painful work of becoming someone his sister would be proud of. I told him about testifying, about the relief of finally being believed, about learning to sleep without nightmares for the first time in 15 years. You're different, he observed one Tuesday, 5 months into our arrangement, lighter. So are you, I said, less armored. My therapist calls it progress. I call it terrifying. Being vulnerable usually is. He looked at me then with something too complicated to name. Gratitude and longing and respect all tangled together. I miss you, he said quietly. Miss being able to call you, check on you, know you're safe. I am safe. I built that myself. I know. That's what makes it harder. I can't rescue you anymore. Can't pretend protection is the same as love. The word hung between us like a question neither of us knew how to answer yet. Love. Was that what this was? This careful dance of distance and drawing lessons, of Tuesday afternoons and texts that said thinking of you without demanding response? Or was it something else, something messier and more honest, built on mutual damage and the shared work of becoming whole? I don't need rescuing, I said carefully, but I might need companionship. Eventually, when I'm ready. How will you know when you're ready? I'll know. 3 weeks later, I had my second gallery show. The theme was apertures. Drawings of windows and doors and openings, all the ways people choose to let light in or keep darkness out. The centerpiece was a large charcoal piece I'd titled Study and Trust. 2 hands, one scarred and one soft, holding each other in streaming sunlight. Not clutching, not restraining, just holding, gentle and certain. Marcus came to the opening but stayed in the back, trying to be unobtrusive, failing, because power has presence even when it tries to hide. But when our eyes met across the gallery, what passed between us wasn't power. It was recognition, promise, the beginning of something that might be love, given time and honesty, and the courage to keep choosing truth. David stood beside me while strangers admired my work, strangers who saw beauty in my pain, who paid thousands of dollars for the visual testimony of survival. You did it, he said, squeezing my hand. You turned everything that tried to destroy us into art, into power. We did it, I corrected. You survived too. That matters just as much. After the gallery emptied, after David and Maya left for a late dinner, after the curator locked up and the city settled into its midnight rhythm, Marcus approached. He'd waited, patient and undemanding, until I had space to breathe. It's beautiful, he said, looking at the drawing of hands. Is it us? It's possibility, I corrected. That's better than certainty. You're right. He studied the piece for a long moment, and I could see him recognizing his own scars in the charcoal. When he looked back at me, his eyes were vulnerable in a way I'd never seen. No armor, no calculation, just raw honesty. Thank you for teaching me how to hold things gently. Thank you for giving me space to breathe. We stood like that, close enough that I could smell his cologne, cedar and smoke. Familiar now after months of Tuesdays. Close enough that I could see the silver threading through his hair, the scar through his eyebrow, the lines around his eyes that came from years of carrying other people's weight. Lily, he said, and my name in his mouth sounded like a question. Are you ready? Or do you need more time? I thought about the past 6 months, about building a life that was mine, my apartment, my money, my choices. About David healing and Thomas imprisoned and the 20 families who'd finally gotten justice. About Tuesday afternoons learning to draw alongside a man who was learning to be gentle. About the studio full of light and the windows I'd drawn. All those apertures representing the choice to open or close, to let people in or keep them out. I'd spent 15 years keeping everyone out, building walls so high nothing could hurt me, which also meant nothing could reach me. But standing here, in a gallery full of my truth made visible, I realized the walls had become a different kind of prison. Safety and isolation wore the same architecture. Protection and loneliness were built from identical materials. Maybe it was time to open a window. Not because I needed rescue, but because I wanted connection. Because I'd learned that being vulnerable with the right person wasn't weakness. It was the bravest kind of strength. "I'm ready," I said. Not for perfect, not for easy, but for real, for true, for messy and complicated and honest. Something in Marcus's expression cracked open, relief and joy and careful hope all flooding in at once. He reached out slowly, always giving me the chance to pull away, and cupped my face with both scarred hands. "I can do messy and complicated," he said, mouth quirking into an almost smile. "I'm excellent at messy and complicated. It's the simple stuff I need help with. Then it's a good thing I'm a patient teacher." He laughed, soft and genuine, and the sound of it did something to my carefully guarded heart, made it open just a fraction, letting light in through the crack. "Can I kiss you?" he asked. And the question was so careful, so conscious of my autonomy, that I fell a little bit in love with him just for asking. "Yes," I whispered. The kiss was gentle, nothing demanding or possessive, just lips meeting lips, breath mingling with breath, two damaged people choosing tenderness over fear. His hands stayed on my face, thumbs brushing my cheekbones, and I let myself lean into the touch without panic, without the old instinct to flee. When we pulled back, we were both smiling. "That was," he started. "Complicated?" I offered. I was going to say perfect, but complicated works too. We left the gallery hand in hand, walking into the cool November night. The city sprawled around us, millions of people living their private dramas. And here we were, just two more souls trying to figure out how to be together without losing ourselves. Marcus didn't try to put me in a car or surround me with guards. We just walked, like regular people, talking about nothing and everything. At my apartment building, he stopped. "I should go. Let you rest." Or, I said, surprising myself, "You could come up. For coffee, for conversation, for whatever feels right." His eyes searched mine, making sure I meant it. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." We climbed the 4 flights to my apartment. No elevator, no luxury, just a walk-up in Bushwick that was mine. Inside, surrounded by my art and my books and my life built from survival, Marcus looked around with something like wonder. "It's perfect," he said. "It's so completely you. Small and cluttered, honest, real, full of light despite everything." I made coffee while he studied my walls, sketches pinned up everywhere, works in progress, the visual diary of my healing. When I brought him a mug, he was standing in front of a piece I'd drawn last month. A woman opening a window, light streaming in, her face turned toward the brightness. "This is new," he said. "I drew it after one of our Tuesdays. After you told me about Sophia, about how she used to paint sunrises because she said they were proof that darkness always ends." His breath caught. "You remembered that." "I remember everything you tell me, Marcus. That's how this works. That's how we build something real. By paying attention, by remembering, by holding each other's stories as carefully as we hold each other." We talked until dawn, sitting on my worn couch while the city woke up outside. He told me about the therapy homework he hated, about learning to delegate control, about the terrifying freedom of not being responsible for everything. I told him about the nightmares that were finally fading, about learning to trust my own judgment, about the strange relief of being visible after years of hiding. When light finally broke through my windows, real light, not the artificial glow of street lamps, Marcus stood to leave. "I should go. Let you sleep. Will I see you Tuesday? If you want to." "I want to." I stood, moved closer, took his hand. "And Marcus, I'm glad you waited. I needed the time to become someone who could choose you freely, not just someone who needed you desperately. That makes this better, truer." He pressed a kiss to my forehead, lingering and gentle. "It does. Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for being worth choosing." The weeks that followed felt like learning a new language, the language of healthy love, of partnership instead of rescue, of two whole people choosing togetherness instead of two broken people clinging to each other's pieces. We moved slowly, deliberately, checking in constantly about boundaries and needs and fears. Marcus introduced me to his therapist, who helped us navigate the complicated power dynamics of our relationship. We established rules: no making decisions for each other, no surveillance disguised as protection, no secrets even when the truth was ugly. We broke some of those rules, apologized, tried again. We were messy and imperfect and learning, but we were also happy, actually happy. The kind of happiness that comes from choosing someone every day, from doing the hard work of becoming people who could love healthily instead of desperately. 6 months after that first kiss, Marcus asked me to move into the brownstone, not into his space, but into the studio apartment on the 3rd floor, my own domain connected to his but separate, autonomous but together. I said yes. A year after the grocery store encounter that changed everything, I stood in my studio painting, actual painting now, not just charcoal, while Marcus sat nearby working on his terrible drawing skills. David and Maya were coming for dinner. My second book of artwork was being published in the fall. Thomas's appeals had been denied, and I was safe, actually safe. Not because someone powerful was protecting me, but because I'd learned to protect myself and then chosen to let someone trustworthy in. Marcus looked up from his sketch, another terrible attempt at hands, bless him, and caught me watching. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "That I'm happy. That I didn't think I'd ever get to feel this. That you were right about something. Just one thing. I'm devastated." He was smiling, teasing, light in a way he never was when we met. What was I right about? That day in the gallery, you said protection and love aren't the same thing. You were right. Love is messier, scarier. It requires vulnerability instead of control. But it's so much better. He set down his charcoal and came to where I stood, wrapping his arms around me from behind, chin resting on my shoulder while we both looked at my painting. A window open to endless sky, a bird mid-flight, wings spread wide. "We're both flying now," he observed quietly. "Both finally free." "Together," I corrected. "We're free together. That's the difference." Outside the window, the real window, not the painted one, the city hummed with life. David was safe. Thomas was in prison. Sophia's studio was full of creation instead of grief. And two people who'd survived violence and trauma and the terrible weight of their own histories were learning that survival wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning. That night, after dinner with David and Maya, after laughter and good food and the simple joy of family chosen instead of born into, I stood at the window of my studio apartment and opened it wide. Not to escape, just to let the cool night air in, to breathe deeply of a life I'd built instead of one I'd merely survived. Marcus came up behind me, and we stood there together in comfortable silence, watching the city lights flicker like stars brought down to earth. "Thank you," I said quietly. "For what?" "For seeing me when I was invisible, for waiting when I needed space, for learning how to love gently instead of possessively, for being brave enough to change. Thank you for teaching me how, for showing me that power isn't the same as control, that strength can be tender, that the bravest thing I've ever done was step back and let you become who you needed to be." I turned in his arms to face him, this complicated man who'd entered my life like a storm and stayed like sunlight, steady, warm, life-giving. "I love you," I said, the words feeling less like confession and more like truth finally spoken. "Not because you saved me, but because you saw me and then gave me space to save myself." His eyes went bright with emotion. "I love you too, for teaching me that protection isn't possession, that caring means trusting, that the strongest cages are the ones we build ourselves, and the hardest prisons to escape are the ones inside our own minds." We kissed in the open window, cool November air washing over us, the sound of the city rising up like a symphony. And for the first time in my life, being visible didn't feel dangerous. It felt like freedom. If you made it to the end of this story, let us know in the comments which city you're watching from, and click the yellow bell to subscribe to the channel and support us. Keep the adventure going by clicking on the suggested video on your screen.